I don't remember not singing, and I don't remember not hearing music. And I would migrate to it wherever it was. And one of my favorite places, of course, was in the lap of my grandmother's lap, because she was such a great storyteller and singer. And so from that, degree of music and the world of no time and no space that it would take me to an old radio that we had, and finding the Metropolitan Opera one afternoon on a Saturday afternoon, and not actually at that time, 3 years old, 3, 4, preferring country music, but more traditional music, my grandmother's music, my mother and my father singing, and we all sang just because before we spoke. And then hearing something like opera and not being able to identify it, and that was when the flame was lit, really lit, but it was always there. I think that we were born singing. That's what my mother says. My grandmother Coolidge, I for whatever reason, chose me to tell so many family secrets to, and to pass on when I matured, and others matured in the family and thought that they were wise enough to appreciate why she had kept them secret, to pass on this history of hers as a Cherokee woman in East Texas who had headed west toward her dream, and which is kind of what the West means to us, and what Cherokee Rose, a song on the new record, is also referring to Bessie. So to pass on her story, and to be able to say for her, as well as for Laura Stewart, who was also Cherokee and Scott, and was a great storyteller, a songwriter, healer, a mother, wife, a great Cherokee woman, an amazing grandmother, they were the best grandmothers. When I was baptized, when I was 9 years old in November in a creek, and it was cold in East Tennessee, a Cherokee woman, a friend of my grandmother's, came out of the trees, and she said, "Laura Stewart, you know, as long as Priscilla is alive, that you will live." It was my promise to her, her songs and her stories would be heard, and that the grandchildren, my children, would know where she came from. They knew her. She was born in 1878. She saw me born, my mother born, me born, my mother being the youngest of 9 children, me born, my children born. She had great-grandchildren. They were preparing her body for burial to send it back to Tennessee, to where our ancestors lie. And they called my mother and they said, "Mrs. Coolidge, can you tell us where this woman is from? Can you tell us what her habits might have been? Because she has the arteries of a 16-year-old girl." To sit at her feet. People would come, our driveway was always full. To sit at her feet was an amazing experience, and there was always someone there that she could, listening. Some would leave and others would come in and stand around, listening to Laura's stories, what they'd stand for however long, till she got tired. And they never got tired of listening to these amazing stories, and this amazing woman. So it was a promise to fulfill, to be able to sing the songs, tell the stories to these women, to do the things that even my parents had not been able to do, due to the fact that the Religious Freedom Act was not passed until 1978. To embrace our heritage fully and completely. The promises don't really know. They're just there. They're just waiting for whatever needs to happen to be fulfilled. And although Rita and I never understood what that was, when we found ourselves writing songs in Rita's kitchen and Rita's house, I was in Memphis at the time. I'd gone back to do publishing demos in the old Phillips studio, Sun studio there, because I was writing a lot. And so I come back home, back to California, because that's home, back to California. And we were all three together a lot, and we kept writing, and we started singing. And we started singing not as sisters only, because we have a sister that's a year, we're like in stair steps between Rita and myself. But it was the next generation. It was Laura's voice that we felt this incredible magic. And we felt the presence of our grandmothers. And we started writing these songs, and we started singing these songs. And Robbie Robertson heard Cherokee, a song about Daddy. And I think Rita had recorded it, and we had not yet recorded it. And he said, I guess we were singing background with her or something, I don't know at the time. And he said, I want to know where I can find these people. He was in LA or in Beverly, wherever he was. And we were just off of Doheny, just staying there for a while, as Rita and I have done off and on during our lives. We have stayed or lived in one or the other's homes as we make changes every few years in our lives. And it's always a rebirthing and always an amazing, life-changing experience, as this was, because we realized that it was Laura's voice. That's what it was. So we started singing. Robbie heard it. He asked us to do some work on music for Native Americans, that album, for that documentary. And we did. And we connected as Walela, out of respect for Rita's amazing metabolism, her spiritual metabolism, and the joy and the love that the hummingbird totem for this family kind of say that the hummingbird is, and laughter and music. We are a family of joy and laughter and music. And Rita's Indian name is Hummingbird, or Walela. So I said, why don't we have to call the group Walela, because of you, little sister, because you're so strong and you kept your wings flying so fast for so many years. And you made so many people so happy, and you did your job so well. And our ancestors are so proud of you. So out of respect for you and them, and being Bird Clan, let's call our group Walela. And we did. And it is part of the magic that is us.
Indian people often speak about 7 generations, which is such a wonderful way to a perspective of the future and of our children and our children's children. With Walela and Laura, you have four generations.
Yes.
You want to speak about that, the power of that and the love?
And referring to 7 generations, we have taken more on a global level. We have taken more as the human family than we've needed. We have created an amazing imbalance on this planet. We have made it very frightening. Even my child, Laura, is frightened for her future, and having children because of the imbalance. And those of us who know better we need to fill our lives with prayer and and communicate this to other people, to as many people as we can see every day of our lives, so that we can change this imbalance. Because for my grandson is 3, he's the great grandson of Mama Stewart, and Cameron Stewart Satterfield. I want his children and his children's children to know what a beautiful place this world is to be in, what an incredible experience this human experience is. What a great gift it is for us to be here on this planet, to come and have this experience as human beings of learning to love ourselves and love each other. And that we have a choice in every single thing we do, in every moment of every day, that will affect the 7 generations, down to the 7th one that will come in. That's my responsibility. That's every conscious, enlightened human being's responsibility, to do that every day. That's how we can change it, and by embracing our diversity and embracing our differences and loving each other unconditionally and not judging each other. Just loving ourselves, loving each other, and loving this earth back to wholeness and healing. With education, our children Indian children will make more of a difference. There'll be a voice, and where there hasn't been a voice, and perhaps my prayer is that the balance will be restored for my great grandson. The song that Robbie did at the Native American Music Awards the year before last, making a noise in this world, is so important for us to do that. We cannot allow ourselves to be passive. We don't have to be angry. We can do this with love. Love is everything. Love is magical. Love can create miracles overnight. When enough people are vibrating to this higher frequency that is pure, unconditional love, and/or our Creator, nothing is impossible. So I see it. I see that in visions a lot. I can say that I see that. We may always be tribal, but we can still be one family. We are all related. We are all one big family. And as brothers and sisters and cousins, let's come together, and we can do it with love. We can't do it without it. We can do nothing without it except destroy ourselves. With Indian women, a lot of Indian women, especially elders and children and young people, the elder women have said, we waited for so long. We waited for so long for there to be a voice for us, And they mean a musical voice as well, because it is the universal language, and they're very aware of this. And so, young people are looking at Laura, that Robbie Robertson, when he was referring to Laura, 1 in a million, and the little white buffalo, she is 1 in a million, and they look at Laura being Indian and looking at like she does. She looks a lot like her father, but she also looks exactly like her grandmother's in her features, and in her she is Indian. And they need role models. These children need role models. We are what we are. We are bicultural. didn't grow up on reservations. My mother's ancestors were marched to Oklahoma. My father's mother's people went west before the march. We don't originally came from North Carolina, and so a lot of our history, family history, was lost. We know certain specific things that weren't lost, and that of course was kept in treasure, like a treasure, and handed down by these grandmothers. I think that it has set perhaps Walela, because of my sister's incredible endurance and perseverance, as a great soul on this planet. She has been on such a quest and such a mission, and getting back, coming round full circle to her roots, and all of us arriving at the same place in time as Cherokee women, and fulfilling this promise. We just did it. We just did it. It was 20 years later than the promise we made, but that has nothing to do with it, because time doesn't exist where our ancestors are. It's just do it, promise that you'll do it. So the purity of the first album, I think, because it literally came through from our ancestors from the other side as we were in the studio. We went in not knowing what we were going to do, and they spoke to us. They spoke to the musicians, and they were there with us. It was a full crowd. And again, on the second one, Native people can identify that. There's no question. They're experiencing it on the spiritual level as spirit beings that we truly are. That's who we are, having this human experience. When my father went back to Georgia, to where the march began, and there's a creek nearby, and he and my mother went together, and there was a lodge nearby where I don't know how many people, and I don't know where exactly at this moment where Daddy was, but somewhere near Ichota, and there was a creek nearby, and he knelt down, and he kissed the ground, and he prayed, and he continued to kiss the earth in that spot, because that was where that was the beginning of this hideous thing that happened, this betrayal. My mother took pictures. My mother, not being irreverent, she just wanted to be able to capture it for perhaps someone 5 or 6 generations down. Your grandfather understood. Your grandfather didn't leave a lot maybe in talking about it and writing. This was at a time when it was forbidden. Speaking the language was, before the Religious Freedom Act, there was so much pain still to 1978. That trail, that shows me, that march showed me when they arrived in Oklahoma, when Cherokee people arrived in Oklahoma, starting as 16,000 on the second time they attempted this march. And 12,000 of us arrived there. And within 4 years, we were beginning to rebuild and our strength, and we were renewed in spirit. That tells me that I have to know where I came from, whether there's pain or not, in order to know who I am and where I'm going. And it's very difficult for me to understand. I've tried to understand when people don't want to know where they came from, what their genetic history is, where their ancestors lie, what the stuff of the essence of us that comes through in this lifetime, choosing these people, choosing these parents for the lessons that we will learn, in this lifetime. I understand that, That's why I've talked to my daughter about it, my son and my other daughter about it a lot. And my mother was a school teacher in Tennessee. She didn't talk about it to her 6th grade students. She couldn't. For a long time, she couldn't. And by the time she really could talk about it freely, Rita and I had removed them. We had removed them and brought them to California, which actually is where my father was born, in Imperial Valley in a cotton field. And that's another story.
How do you feel about the Native American music being finally in a category at the Grammys now?
It was very, very liberating, very joyful to be seen, we see you, we know you're there, we know you have a contribution, and we want you. Thank you, thank you. We continue to teach our traditions and our belief that you don't take more than you need. Greed doesn't compute, my brothers and sisters. It doesn't compute. It creates imbalance. Let's do it this way, and then, then there will be more harmony on this beautiful earth that is our home. And that, we've been given the gift and the blessing of coming here to be with each other and learn all of this. Let's not take more than we need. Before we, mess with the water anymore and create bigger holes in the ozone, let's cease, let's stop this, so that our mother can be restored to health and to balance, so that our children can be here again. It's how can we do this? How can you do this to your children's children? Do you not care about your children's children? Do you not care about what's going to happen, about what's happening today to the children that are here today? It doesn't have to be this way. We don't take more than we need, and we continue to do to others as we would have done to ourselves, and we continue, to love unconditionally every single thing, plant, mineral, animal, precious human beings, our brothers and sisters in this world, in this lifetime, unconditionally. And we don't judge, we help. If we can help, let us be helpers.
What do you think Grandma Bessie or Grandma Laura would say about the state of affairs now with what's going on in Indian country?
Well, it's infinitely different and infinitely the same in many ways. Because with proper education, with people nurturing families, mothers, women, nurturing their children and creating in them the knowledge, that knowledge is power, but not without wisdom. And that you must have knowledge, and don't forget where you came from, and you can change the world. Self-esteem. With education, self-esteem rises, and that's happening. I see our other sister, the sister between Rita and me, she's working hands-on, 4 or 5 reservations in Northern California. Much of the work, she's not paid for this work, for most of this work. It comes out of the love and whatever money she and her husband can generate. He fishes. They are totally selfless human beings. They do live to serve other people. We all are doing that in some way, or we will. That is our guide. You know, it's people like that that we can look at and say, yes, this is why we're here. So it's hands-on, teaching these children some of their many tribes there on these reservations that are presented, and they love Walela, so she teaches them Cherokee, even though perhaps they may be Pomo or Hopi or some other nation or tribe. And they don't know their own traditions or cultures because their parents haven't taught them in many cases, and the grandparents have maybe gone on. And so Linda is there, and Linda Coolidge is there hands-on with these children, these teenagers who just want, you know, they just want to be out and, you know, in the car with their girlfriend and just, you know, cruising around and getting some beers. And it's like, yo, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Got something really exciting to tell you, you know? And she can do that with children and with young people. She's magical. My grandmother spoke, and her mother spoke nothing but Cherokee. And so there were certain words and certain phrases that were passed down. Although she was fearless. Mom Stewart was totally, completely fearless. My other grandmother was I think lived a lot of her life in a lot of fear. She had a really unpleasant experience in Texas before she left there. And she recreated herself when she came to California. And she wanted to forget that she was Indian until she met my father's father. And he brought her back home to who she was. She still was afraid, and toward the last days of her life, she wasn't afraid. She was totally fearless too. She and my grandmother lived in the same house with my parents, and they walked down the hall. Good morning, Bessie. Good morning, Laura. How are you today? Just wonderful, wonderful. They passed at home. They were as the way it should be, by, you know, with their children and their grandchildren around them. I held my grandmother, Coolidge, and held my father when she passed. And I was given the gift of seeing what she saw. And that's a treasure. That's a treasure. It's not something you can really sit and talk about. It's something you live. It is unconditional love. That's my lesson. That's our lesson. Forgiveness. Forgiveness is everything. And love is forgiveness, is the creator. They're vibrating on that same amazingly high frequency that is light, that is non-physical light. And that's where we came from. And in our teachings, we came from the stars, the near, the very far away stars.
One Day Yahoo, at the song, what do the lyrics mean?
Those lyrics, those phonetics, the way you hear them, are phonetics that were created during the dark years when we weren't allowed to sing the songs. But we got an email from this wonderful Iroquois, I can't remember his name right this minute, but he is a linguist. We got an email from him about 2 years ago, and he said, just wanted to let you know, girls, in case you didn't know, because the Salaki language is part of that it's all was one people and one language, along with Tuscarora and Choctaw at one point. So he said, just to let you know, want you to know what you're singing. You're singing, good morning, sun. Good morning to the day. Thank you. Thank you, Creator, for the day. Thank you for another day and a chance to live and to serve. Thank you. Thank you that I am Indian. Thank you. For each other, time travelers, moving spirits, breaking each other's hearts, falling into each other's arms, human angels on this mission.